In this video, I'll use the Query Designer to create a select query from scratch, and we'll follow the process I described in the previous video. I'll select a data source, fields from that data source, and as needed, we'll add criteria to filter the results. As a demo, let's answer the question from the previous video. How many orders did Tailspin Toys place last month? So on the ribbon, choose Create, then Query Design. That starts the designer. You can use the Show Table dialog to add tables or queries as a data source, or you can just drag a source over from the navigation pane. For this example, that's the Orders table, and to answer our question, we need customer names and order dates. You can double-click to add a field to the design grid down here, or you can drag and drop. So if I run the query now, you can see it returns every order for every customer, and I can use the filtering tools here to narrow the results. But if you add criteria to a query, you can get the same result every time. Thing is, adding criteria gets a little more complicated, so you need to remember a couple rules. And the first rule is, you need to know your data. To show you what I mean, I'll open the Orders table, select Fields on the ribbon, then the fields in our query. You can see Order Date is a date-time field, but Customers isn't a text field, it's a number field. And that leads to the second rule. Your criteria has to match the data type of the field you're filtering. For instance, you can only enter date values in a date-time field, numbers in a number field, and so on. So how do I know which number corresponds to Tailspin Toys? I'll start by going to Database Tools, Relationships, and I see customers and orders are related by the ID and Customer ID fields. So I open the Customers table, locate Tailspin Toys, and I see it has an ID value of 23. So back to the query, and I'll enter 23 in the criteria row of the Customer ID field. Then I'll expand the Order Date field and add a pair of logical operators, between and I'll put a starting date here and an ending date here. And notice I surround the date values with pound signs. Access requires those because they identify the value as a date and not text. So run the query, and there you go. Just the orders placed by Tailspin last month. Now let's go back and look at the Query Designer for a minute. Do you see these checkboxes? If you clear them, you hide your field from the result, like so. The field is still in the query, you just don't see it in the results. Also, if you want to return a portion of the result, such as the top 5 values or maybe the bottom 25% of a data set, select a value from the return list. Then here in the design grid, go to the Sort row and select Ascending or Descending. Ascending order returns the bottom items, and descending returns the top items. So next, look at the Totals button. This is a fast way to add sums, averages, or other calculations to a query, and here's an example. You can see we have 3 tables and a field from each, and if I run the query as it is now, we get a lot of repeated categories. So back to Design View, click Totals, and notice that Access groups the records in the query. Run the query again, and now it calculates the number of items sold in each category. Sort the results, and you can see which categories sell the most or the least. So next, I'll show you how to create a select query that uses multiple data sources. That involves understanding a database component called a join, so keep going.